let's look at this situation with Tamatha Paul. I mean, it does feel like a storm in a teacup to me. That a politician who sits on the left has said some of the people that I interact with feel more concerned when they see police officers. That doesn't feel like a massively controversial thing to say. I'm paraphrasing. And as you just learned, I probably shouldn't paraphrase. But let's have a listen to what was actually said. The thing that's probably a good debate for us, Chewie, is the response by Chippy to this, saying what she said was stupid. Now, we understand that Chippy's trying to reach into the middle, but is that an okay way to address this? Could it have been done a different way? We'll have a look at the story.
Green Party MP Tamatha Paul is standing by her claim that police on beat patrols in Wellington do little more than harass the homeless. The Prime Minister's labelled her comments outrageous and insane, while Labour leader Chris Hipkins thinks they're stupid. Green co-leader Chloe Swarbrick is backing the Wellington Central MP. Here's senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch.
Concerns about crime in the capital have been well covered.
He's pushed the man over, so that's assault, yeah?
From assaults to sexual violations, it led to beat police being deployed to wander the streets, their presence designed to deter crime.
Just a warning this time, yeah?
But the local MP, Tamatha Paul, says all beat patrols do is harass the homeless.
So one of the big complaints I heard last year especially was around...
So straight away, one of the overwhelming complaints I heard last year, a common complaint I heard last year. Now, if this is a common complaint she heard last year, I don't see what the big problem with this statement is. She's repeating a common complaint she heard from her constituents. Now, her constituents might be the kind of people who are she's obviously Central Wellington, but the ones she interacts with might be people who by and large are more concerned about police than not, but it still makes it a valid statement that the things I heard last year. So we'll let it play out.
Harass the homeless.
So one of the big complaints I heard last year especially was around beat patrols just picking up homeless people's stuff and putting it in the bin. When I inquired about it, they said that was because it was a Wellington City Council bylaw, and I don't think that should be what they're dedicating their resource towards.
Leading to a pile-on from the government.
Oh, look, I thought it was quite...
I know you're going to... I know your answer, Chewie, but one of the things I heard last year was homeless having their items thrown away by the police because the Wellington City Council said they had to. That's the statement. That's the statement. Is this a hangable offence, or do we just have a line them up with a shooting gallery at dawn from that statement?
Politicians love their anecdotal statements, and National certainly loves it to roll them out and them not to be challenged at all. Otherwise, it's a gotcha question from the press. Yeah. But no, I think you're exactly right. She's giving feedback. Somebody has said this, that it might be something that's a concern, and she's bringing it up. That's literally an MP's job.
I actually think it was more than somebody. She made it clear that this was a common thing she was hearing. So it's not like a one-off, let's just use this for our headline. It was like this is not an uncommon thing we've heard. That's what I took from it. But we'll let it keep going and see what the darling leaders have got to say about this. All the male leaders have got to say about this with their patriarchal take on the world. I don't know. Went somewhere with that.
Dedicating their resource towards.
Leading to a pile-on from the government.
Oh, look, I thought it was quite outrageous and insane, to be honest. It's just weird, to be honest.
She's for anarchy, pretty divorced from reality.
Paul is the Greens police spokesperson, seen here on her social media talking about abolishing the police.
What alternatives we could have to the police and what radical kind of police abolition could look like.
So, again, bit of a straw man. Tamatha Paul does not think that the police should be gotten rid of. In the States, when they started this defund the police slogan, it was the worst slogan in the world because it does sound like they want to get rid of the police, and the Republicans very cleverly use that, whereas what they were saying is if you can allocate some of the resources and money that you're currently spending on police maybe towards specialists with mental health who can actually help those people in the street who don't need a police officer, they need a mental health officer. I'm 95% sure it's exactly what she's talking about. But when she talks about abolition, they jump straight to it. Like in America, they jump straight on the defund the police sort of motto.
Police and what radical kind of police abolition could look like.
Do you believe we should defund the police?
Altogether, I think there are some functions that the police are currently carrying out that other people would be better suited at.
It's la la land
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that the police should be responding
Perfect
to
statement.
incidences of domestic violence, sexual violence, things that only they can do. I think beat patrols is an easy thing that can be substituted for by Māori wardens, by hapai ake kind of community people walking around, which we have in Wellington, and I think they should focus on their core business.
Paul has the backing of her co-leader, who says people.
There's nothing controversial in that statement. There's
No.
nothing.
No, there's
like
not.
literally nothing is controversial in that statement, but the media sees blood.
People feel unsafe around police.
I can tell you that there are constituents who I do deal with, namely those who are currently experiencing homelessness, who absolutely feel that way.
Labor not lending any leniency to its partners on the left.
I thought that Tamatha Paul's comments were ill-informed, were unwise, and in fact were stupid.
Chris Hipkins.
There you go. So that's all we're going to do from that story.
Hey.
Then they go into the police story, which we're going to do off TVNZ, police and the gang story. Yeah, I think Chippy could still reach over to the centre and go, it's certainly not the way I would think about it, but I understand. I mean, did Chippy spend the time to understand what she was saying? That some of her constituents feel this way, and maybe the police in general could do things a different way, whether that means bringing in more trained people or... So I don't know if it's like slamming Tamatha was the best way to put forward. I mean, there's a perfect good advert right there. There's a perfect advert for National at the next election. Even Chippy doesn't trust the Greens. They're all stupid. That clip. You know what I mean?
Don't give him that one, Pat. Don't give him that one. Look, there's so much there, right? Like, I could 100% see where Tamatha is coming from. She is speaking for people that are not going to be spoken for by people like Luxon and by people like Chippy. Obviously from Luxon, but Hipkins is coming from a place of privilege. Like he isn't being spoken to by people that that Tamatha is speaking about. Police do not have a good reputation in certain circles, certainly for the problems that they've had with systemic racism, how they've dealt with the LGBTQ community over the years. They have had people in their ranks that have been rapists and sexual abusers and stuff like that. And they're a blunt instrument at times, being deployed into situations that they are barely trained for. And as Tamatha said, there are better avenues. If you're having a mental health crisis, an absolute episode, a breakdown, and cops turn up and literally the toolkit that they have is tasers, pepper sprays, and handcuffs, that's what they'll use. That's what we had just the other day with this non-verbal autistic woman.
Yeah.
Child. Sorry.
Girl.
I said
11 years old.
11-year-old girl. They thought, oh, this is that missing 20-year-old person. Let's handcuff them and put them in a drug-induced coma. Like, it's just ridiculous. So what we should have had there is what Tamatha Paul said, and there was room there to have a nuanced conversation about what it actually meant, and is there something there that we could look at that would be an adult discussion. And we expect Luxon and Mark Mitchell to swing in on some fucking vine and go, the Greens hate cops. See, told you. And we go, oh yeah, that's expected. What we didn't expect was Chippy to come in and call a potential coalition partner stupid.
Well, being fair, what she said was, it was. I mean, I know I'm splitting hairs, but that's what he said. What she said was stupid. But look, let's also do this.
I mean, that was the thing. Like, why is he sniping at the Greens?
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree.
Like, this is something that I've criticised him for in the past. Of like, come on, man, what are you doing?
this is the actual panel. So you can see it's only 43 seconds. That's all that was on TVNZ tonight. I'll just play it for you because you hear some more words, which is where this kind of pile-on started.
It comes as the Greens police spokesperson put the boot into police foot patrols.
Like, Wellington people do not want to see police officers everywhere, and for a lot of people, it makes them feel less safe.
For a lot of people, it makes them feel less safe. That's the statement. For a lot of people, it makes them feel, that's a testable actual statement. And I don't find that controversial. For a lot of people, police walking around makes them feel less safe. For me, no, I don't feel less safe if I see police officers, but for a lot of people, it does. We'll just, before you jump in, we'll just give this last 30 seconds, then I can turn it off.
Leading to politicians of all stripes to gang up on her.
She is totally wrong, and the Greens are in la-la land.
Sorry, how can she be wrong? She basically gave the opinion of some of her constituents. How can you say that she's wrong when what she said was, for a lot of people, the police presence makes them feel less safe? How can you say that's wrong? Like, honestly, how can you say that? You have, at the very least, you have no idea. At the very most, you're just wrong.
Law and order.
Tamatha Paul's comments were ill-informed, were unwise, in fact, were stupid.
It's just weird, to be honest.
Her own party, though, coming to her defence.
What Tamatha was expressing are the sentiments that she has heard from constituents.
The Greens clearly walking to their own beat. Benedict Collins,
Good.
One News.
Good. Why is that a bad thing? Yeah, like if they didn't say what they had said, then you had the entire parliament going, nah, no problems with the cops. Everybody that says that they have problems with the cops are criminals and should be disregarded. There are people out there that have not had good interactions with the police through no fault of their own.
Yep.
Like, not everybody that has a bad experience with the cops is a criminal. There are police that get it wrong. There are police that overstep their bounds. You know, they're in a job that they have to make judgment calls, and nobody has 100% hit rate on making fucking judgment calls. This is one of the things that I will always criticize about people changing laws to give police more power and more leeway, is it gives them more opportunity to make bad calls, like they did with the gang patch law and that sort of thing. Look, a lot of these stories also included the fact that somebody might have even been Tamatha, I don't know, that some people feel safer around someone with a gang patch than they do with the police. Again, controversial statement, but if you stop, take a fucking breath, get some oxygen to your brain, you'll realize that that would be true. There are some people out there that are more comfortable with a gang presence because that is what they know, and every interaction they've had with the police has been bad.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be controversial. Put your brain in gear. Yeah. And it would have been good if Chippy, I mean, I understand he can't be as radical as what Tamatha is saying. I can understand that he might not have a personal position that is even close to that. But his position is not to immediately run to the same place that Christopher Luxon is standing and say the same fucking things.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're so keen on taking the middle ground, then look at where the middle ground between Tamatha and Luxon is and be there.
There is a lesson here though as well. And that is, and I guess this is one of the problems in media in general. Mostly you've got a 7-second soundbite. We know that because one of the genesis of what we're doing is me getting pissed off with TVNZ, giving me a 7-second video clip and me going, I can handle more than this. But in saying that, that's the world we live in. If you know you're going to be clipped and not be given 2, 5, 7, 9 minutes to get the whole thing across, maybe a skill that all politicians need to learn is how to synopsize that in 10 seconds. I mean, how you do that, you know, we're not talking about defunding all the police, but we think mental health specialists should be involved in certain call-outs because they're better skilled at it than the police are. Or something that there's no gaps, so they can't edit you down.
There should be, I don't know, like we have an armed defenders squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're normal police that get extra training and have extra responsibility. Then maybe there should be some police that are trained for mental health crisis or something like that. They have extra training, they have extra responsibilities. They're the ones that go to those domestic violence call-outs, to the people having a psychotic episode, to having mental health, suicide, all of that sort of thing. Why is that not part of the discussion?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the whole thing with beat cops, okay, that was Mark Mitchell's thing to make people of Central Auckland feel safer.
And it does sound like an 80s band as well. Beat Cops, or an 80s some kind of sitcom.
And look, I was very critical of that. I think it is mainly performative, but it is providing a little bit of a security blanket for people, and it is maybe providing a little bit of a deterrent for random, spontaneous acts of crime. But there is a flip side to that coin as well. The people that are going to interact with those beat cops the most are probably homeless people.
Yeah.
And are they having the same experiences as Mrs. Business Owner and Mr. I work in the center city? Probably not. And this is the nuance that I expect from our leaders to take a breath, get that oxygen up to the brain, and have some empathy going on, and going, maybe my life experience isn't the same as somebody else in this country.
Well, but then you also think about Tamatha Paul, right? You think about those two people, the homeless person or the Mrs. Business. Who is she more likely to interact with on a daily basis? Like, who is she more likely to be drawn to? Who is more likely to be drawn to a Green MP than, for example, an ACT or even a Labour MP? Is that homeless person. So, of course, her experiences of her conversations are going to be different than David Seymour. Do you think David Seymour would ever speak to a homeless person? No, of course not. And he would hardly talk to a single home owning person. Most of the people he talks to has to own multiple homes. So you think about that as well. It's like, I don't know this to be a fact, but I would be happy to place a large wager on it. If you got all the MPs lined up and you went through proportionally who is more likely to speak to a homeless person, there'd be this big upshoot at the end by the Greens. So that's going to be more likely to be the experiences of the people they speak to.
I've also got another couple of things to comment about this news piece that we just played and what we saw in it, and something else the media has done today around the story. What we saw there is, clips of Tamatha saying, hey, look, maybe we need to look at alternative options. But we also saw clips of her doing the fucking work and going for a ride along with the police.
Yeah.
And seeing how they interact with people on a patrol. That is learning something that perhaps she hadn't had an experience of before, the other side of it, how people interact with the police, how police go out and do their job. Doing the work. Do you think that Mark Mitchell bothers to do that? Or do you think he just cruises on the fact that he was a policeman, so he doesn't need to?
I think he would definitely do the ride-alongs. I think that's almost assured he'd do a ride-along.
Do you think he would be changing his mind as he went out there? Or do you think he'd be, again, confident in his own experience?
Yeah, no. And I think he's less likely on those ride-alongs to meaningfully interact with any, for example, homeless person that the police that he's riding along with are interacting with. But I think I think he probably would go on ride-alongs. But as you say, he'd go on them being the expert rather than being the student, which is probably what all politicians should do. So
good clarification. The other thing I want to bring up, and I grabbed a little shot of this from Stuff. Hang on, do I need to stop your thing?
I've got to stop my screen. There you go. I've done it.
Cool. So this is a screenshot from Stuff, obviously, about this. Now, I wonder how all of this is related.
Jeez.
Okay. Bottom right-hand corner. Police mistake child for missing patient in distressing blunder. Tamatha Paul speaks out on beat police. And then the rest of these stories, apart from the ad, is all people jumping on Tamatha.
Gosh. Because, I mean, when you stop and break
see it like that,
but when you break it down, it's such a nothing story.
right?
It's a nothing story, and they're making it the most important story in the world today.
But when I saw this grid laid out, I'm like, well, bottom right is maybe adding some credence to what Tamatha's trying to say, and then the majority of the page is taken up by people going, nah, she's stupid and insane and crazy. And it's just fucked to see it laid out like that. So I mean, the media, this is what we're saying. This would be a perfect opportunity for someone to do a story that is like, well, why has Tamatha Paul said this?
Yeah.
It's and we don't get that. We just get the pile on.